those are my breakups. So the third story that I was going to cover, this is actually from an attendee, David Swanson, I believe is his name. He's a lefty. I'd never even heard of him, but he's on the list of the people of, and I thought you of all people would appreciate this, being a communist who does shows with everyone, who will talk to anyone. How dare I oppose war together with libertarians? Because you've been criticized for attending many a protest and many a rally with people who people haven't liked. I thought that this was quite appropriate for us to kind of talk about and have you kind of share your opinion on. But that he's getting a lot of criticism for planning to speak at an anti-war rally, which libertarians speak, than he does for sitting around doing nothing. Mm-hmm. In fact, I get exactly no criticism ever from anyone for sitting around doing nothing, even though that's far more dangerous. I love that. I realize that sitting around doing nothing or binge watching videos is a top priority for millions of people. I see packed sports arenas, vacation resorts. So clearly people could go to an anti-war rally. They have other priorities, but it seems strange and has for decades that avoiding going people near you who you disagree with is a higher priority than opposing war for people who claim they want to oppose war. It's so frustrating. You know, we've been dealing with this PSYOP now for feels like 2 years, you know, since the first March for Medicare for All. When they started, and it might even be before that. I'm sure there were Assange rallies and marches where they had infiltrators and people trying to sow seeds of dissent. And it's happened every time lefties try to get everyone together to do anything. You've got this group of people that always has a problem with 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 7 or whatever people, and this one's a this and this one's a that and this one's a that, and you can't ever agree with them, right? But why would I team up with or even be seen with people who oppose a war because it costs money? Talking about mass murder, massive environmental destruction, risking a nuclear apocalypse. Isn't that embarrassingly comical to oppose it because it costs money? Well, I guess, but I'd oppose war with people who opposed it because it started with a W. This is great. If a crowd of people who hated war and water and walruses in Wisconsin invited me to speak against war at an event exclusively against war, I'd show up and I'd speak with perhaps a nice bottle of water and my Wisconsin Badger shirt on, because the very point would be the widespread coalition agreeing on the opposing war. But so in your experience, and I know Pasta, your teammate at the Convo Couch, your partner at the Convo Couch, is due to speak at this rally in 2 weeks. Everyone can go Cash App or Venmo Pasta. Go to yesterday's stream for Convo Couch, and you'll be able to find the links to it. Hook them up, get them there. But so, what do you think about all these infiltrators and the people who I would call them chaos agents? All right, they are designed to. I don't even know who they're talking to at this point, because you're either with us at this point, or I don't think there's many people in the middle that they can get. So it's like, why are they standing there making all this noise still?
So there's genuine criticism of some of the speakers, maybe just like 1 or 2, if that. But that's not a big enough problem as nuclear war and the potential for nuclear war, and somebody organizing an event, a group of people organizing an event to oppose this, that I haven't seen organized at all by the left. In fact, the left, or what they call themselves left, is there cheering on the money for NATO because Ukraine needs to be respected from evil Russia, completely lacking any sort of understanding as to everything we just talked about this last almost hour. So that's what the left is doing, or the left is just there talking about how evil Putin is, or, doing absolutely nothing, as this man mentioned. They're not doing anything. If you don't like this anti-war rally, then organize your own anti-war rally that you like with the people you like. But that just doesn't happen, because that's not the goal. The goal is to, as you said, destroy any semblance of this, any notion of this, and cry enough to where, and it's not just the left. Libertarians have the same problems.
Mhm.
Every ideological sector has its own problems. We saw this problem come to terms with Scott Ritter, them trying to get rid of him, blah blah blah. It's just like ridiculous at this point. The guy was a UN chief weapons inspector during Iraq. Like, what the hell are you doing? I mean, this is somebody that should be talking about this conflict, because again, we're being lied into another war, and the same thing is happening. And so how is you disliking Scott Ritter or even Jackson Hinkle more important
I mean,
than
that's
and
so silly.
I'm no fan, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, I think people who are liars and who are grifting will fall by the weight of their own lies eventually. Eventually people will see through them. And that's you can't just have this little tantrum every time somebody you don't agree with comes on and says something you don't like. I mean, if it was something else, maybe. This is the biggest anti-war rally I've seen in since the conflict began, and it's so necessary right now. And
Mhm.
I don't care if libertarians are doing it. I have disagreements with libertarians all the time. I can't stand talking to them about certain things because they always have to bring on the specter of communism and how China is fascist every 2 seconds. But if you're going to say, hey, maybe we need to stop funding this war, maybe we need to stop sending weapons to Ukraine, good. Okay. Well, then let's get you together with a communist or with a socialist or with whatever, a right winger. I don't care. So, and that's what's most important is we're not going to be able to really argue about ideology or about who's this or that if we're all like bombed to death because of the actions of the State Department. And as I said, the opposition has to come from the people of the United States, from the people of the West. At least people in Europe are out there protesting every weekend against sanctions against Russia. They're protesting against NATO. They're saying end NATO, get NATO out of here. What is the United States doing? Czechoslovakia or the Czech Republic got was able to get communist and right wingers together to organize a protest against NATO. Why can't the United States do that? Why can't they even get the left together to organize anything? They can't even get independents together to organize anything because we're so focused on each other and our bullshit
Division.
than to actually do something. And it's really frustrating because every time you see this effort, there's something that thwarts it, and it's by design, but it's also by the fact that this is the United States. This is again, this is the desire to say, well, democratically we have to do this and that, and then you just start going in circles and to try to get everyone's opinion. But really, there's a difference between getting everyone's opinion and being victim to these chaos agents, being victims to these people that just want to sow discord. By the way, that is the CIA handbook, is to go into organizations and movements and sow discord and throw off the objective of that movement to where you don't even know anymore what the objective of that movement was. It gets lost because you're so busy talking about who's a fascist or who isn't a fascist and the red brown alliance and all this stuff. Like, it's something I've been dealing with a while,
Yeah.
for a long time. This is, I mean, I've been called a Russian propagandist since Bernie's first ran for president. So when people were like, "Oh my God, you're going to be called a Russian propagandist," it's like, well, what's the difference? They've been doing it for a long time. What's this going to do to me now? They're just going to call me a Russian propagandist. Am I a Russian propagandist? No, I'm not a Russian propagandist. So who gives a damn? What the same people that are so dumb that they can't see through what's going on are going to call me a Russian propagandist isn't going to make or break what I do or what other people do. At the end of the day, what is really going to stick here is eventually is the truth. 20 years later, we know we were lied to in Iraq, and the truth may come late, but it does eventually come. And I really hope people do go to this event, and I'm glad it's taking place in spite of all the hiccups and in spite of some of the dumb decisions I think that were made. I really hope the event can surpass all of that and really, really garner at least attention to really show that there are a group of people from all walks of the political spectrum that are saying, "Hey, we don't want this war with Russia. We don't want war with China. We don't want this increasing a nuclear threat. We don't want World War III. We want peace." And that's the important message that needs to be resolute, and it needs to be the loudest part of that rally. And I hope it is.
Yeah, yeah, and again, this guy's saying again, nobody's in an anti-war rally to promote libertarianism or any other political ideology except for the bit against war. If they were, they'd be promoting what an array of people we have agreeing on opposing war, which is the whole point. He's had organizers of the event on his radio show and agreed with everything they said. They created a list of demands for the rally, agreed with them all. At some point, don't you have to criticize an event for what it actually says it's about and not for its unstated agendas? I mean, this is what now the other criticism is over one of the organizers and the way that they've handled money in the past and not been transparent. And I think that that's also valid criticism. I would just make sure that he's not anywhere near the money. I mean, that it's that easy. Is there no limit? If libertarianism was acceptable in the general society as racism or sexism or some other evil as a damn well should be, would I appear beside libertarians? Well, if nuclear war were becoming more and more likely and nobody else was lifting a finger, you mean? Yeah, I think I would. I've spoken at rallies against drones with guys wearing NRA hats who don't mind drones murdering foreigners, but didn't want to be spied on. Right? Spoken at rallies against wars with people who opposed only one side of a war and supported the other, which is really weird. In my view, that's slightly more acceptable and useful if done in the country whose side you're opposing, which is what's happening here. In fact, I've never once spoken at a rally beside a single person I didn't have some serious disagreement with. That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Spoken at rallies with members, as long as they don't take the microphone out of your hands, like something like what happened to Fee. Yeah, it's fine. Like that was literally an op that was allowed by the March for Medicare for All people, and they still take no accountability for that, other than saying we're going to get rid of her. They knew what she was going to do. They knew what she was going to do. They had an idea of what she could do, and they still allowed her to do it. Okay. I promoted legislation sponsored by members of Congress whose actions I mostly opposed, whose motivations I entirely opposed, and whose political parties I consider criminal operations. Yeah, but legislation that helps everybody, I don't care who puts it up. Right. So the point is an anti-war rally, regardless of who puts it up, we're going to show up. By the way, the Answer Coalition has also scheduled, like you talked about, you want to make your own rally for the people who you like. They're doing that. And I commend that. And I hope that people show up to that one too, because we need to say it every month. There should be one every month. It's going to be outside the White House in March. Answer Coalition. I don't know who's going to be showing up to that one as opposed to who's going to be showing up to this one. But the more people, the better. Maybe one of the things we need to work on is not calling people who disagree with you nutcases. How do you expect to persuade anyone of anything if you call them names and avoid them? We believe things. We all decided we're nutty. And more importantly, where? What other anti-war rally? Identify it. And if I'm invited to speak, I speak offline and on at every opportunity until I'm able, until I'm sick to death of hearing myself say the same simple, obvious things over and over again. So you come up with a plan for an ideologically improved anti-war rally. I'll do everything I can to help. And this is the key. In the meantime, please recognize the sin of omission and that special circle of hell of which it is worthy. And that's really it. Like, rage against war. That's the key. We want to rage against war. Mm-hmm. There's going to be INN members there. Tara Reid will be speaking. Hosta will be speaking. And a huge, huge lineup of speakers that is so impressive and crosses ideological lines, from Tulsi to Ron Paul to Chris Hedges, Max Blumenthal, so many people who I respect, some people who I don't like, and that's okay. I don't have to like everyone that shows up at a rally outside at one of the memorials. Like, don't hang out with them and don't talk to them. It's really not that hard. Like, there's going to be plenty of people there to talk to.
Yeah. I mean, just Pasta and I went to the Defeat the Mandates rally. And I think he spoke at one of them, but we went to several. One of us at least went to, I think Pasta went to both. I went to one of them, but there were communist flags. There were people there. There were Greens there. There were like independents there. There were right wingers. we were there. I mean, so it was just this whole thing, and there's obviously people there that I'm going to disagree with, but we were there to stand against mandates. So
That's
that's what
it.
you do. You go to these rallies for whatever it is that you agree on, and that's what it is, and that's that. Like, you know, that's it.
For a single cause. I mean, it that's it. I mean, if you oppose this war, you're going to show up and forget the people that, you know, you're going to ignore the people that you don't like and focus on the people that you do, and not just on people, but on the fact that you're there to oppose war and show solidarity to oppose war. And you know, coalitions across all kinds of ideological spectrums shows people that this is a big deal.